maybe I have too much going on. And you may be in a state that you can't give up anything, So I'm not saying that we can, because we can't always shift things, things we just can't sometimes. But sometimes I've found even at being stressed, because I feel like men sometimes use sex for stress relief. And for a long time I was like, good gracious. But you know what? One time I tried it. Good gracious. I was like, all right, I understand. Yeah. And then I mean, even for women, sometimes try to push through. I mean, and you have a perfect example, because we do that. You're right. We do that for God. But then we also realize God requires our worship. So we have to push through the tiredness. We have to push through the frustration. We have to push through in order to have that intimate time with God. But God set our marriages to be a replica of our relationship with Him. So again, just challenging, we can't always use that as an excuse.
And if I can add to that, I've handled it 3 different ways depending upon, sometimes because I have 4 kids. And and he understands. So sometimes if he really wants some and he knows that, he'll help me, if you want it. We get to bed at a reasonable time. We 9 o'clock, so he'll come in and you do A, B, C. It hasn't always been that way, but he's learning that chemistry and what works. Come in and do A, B, C, or D, and we're in the bed at a reasonable time, and then, or if it's something and I know he really, then I'll jump in the shower and do something quick to freshen up, and and it may be wrong, correct me, but, and I've heard him say, somebody else, that duty thing, and excuse me, do what you gotta do, honey, I'm tired. I'm just being honest with you.
Right.
And honestly, that sometimes turns out to be the best kind. So,
I go to work and go to school, and he has literally said, "Okay, I'm ready," and I'm like, "I'm tired." I used to say that, but then once we get into the mood, it's like, "Okay, let me do this. I'm here now."
It's better when we do it together.
Sometimes it is like that.
That's part of that pressing through, pressing through. And something you said, and that's a big part, just getting him to help. So let me read you this.
And it shakes it really good, ladies.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, it shakes it.
Let me read this 84% of women say they have sex to get their man to help around the house.
Wow.
Sexual health experts say a little harmless, quote, sexual bribery is a healthy in a healthy relationship. Already the relationship is healthy. Is a good thing, considering that women still end up bearing an unequal distribution of labor on the domestic front. Turning foreplay into chore play is a brilliant strategy. If you can help me, whatever the task is, if you can help me do this, then hey.
And those babies be in the bed sleep those nights. They in the bed.
So actually that works. Studies have shown that women are more likely to be interested in sex if the house is clean. So this should be a motivation enough for men to grab a mop and load the dishwasher. So something to think about. Something to think about. Okay. Anybody have any questions on? So let me go down here. Okay. So kind of in understanding your husband's sexual needs. So there's 4 different needs that the husband has. There's a physical need, an emotional need, a spiritual need, and a relational need. And sometimes we don't think about our husbands in this way because we, think that they're not emotional and they're not to the extent we are, but they are, because.
Can you state those needs again?
Physical, emotional, spiritual, and relational. So we understand the physical needs, right? That's one of their greatest needs. So we understand that, and this might help a little to understand that. So they gave an analogy, and if any women in here that are mothers and have nursed, or even if you had a baby, so you know that when you have a baby, there's the immediate filling of the milk. And if you nurse, you know how it feels where maybe you're out shopping or you're out somewhere and you need to express the milk because it's full and it needs to be released. Well, that's the same feeling a man has. Okay? So when they say they need, they're telling the truth. They're not just saying that to us just to get some. Really, physically, that's what it is. That's what it feels like for them. They have a physical need to release. Okay? So we need to understand that. And then, to add to that, so immediately after sexual release, men are physically satisfied. And that actually leads to their emotional needs. So if you ever notice, even if your husband is not an emotional person, after sex, he might want to cuddle, he might want to talk, he might be open, to hear you just in, and other times when you just want to talk, and you're just like, but after sex, you can tell him anything you want to tell him anything you want to tell him because he's more open. That physical need has led right into that emotional need. Okay. So something else that I found interesting is, I'm trying to find it. It might be in the biological part, but I don't know what it's called. But something else along with this and the physical need or just biologically what happens, through sex is a man's desire for sex increases either right before or right after the wife's menstrual cycle. So, if you think about it,
when it should.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing how?
It's amazing. God is amazing.
Yeah. So just watch out.
Yeah.
But the good thing about it is usually the women we're the same.
Right.
Either right before or right after.
Wow.
We're more easily aroused as well. Okay. So another part of the emotional need we talked about earlier is that if the husband needs to know that we want them, that we need them. That's part of their emotional need. That they have to. That builds their confidence, and that makes them feel good about themselves. It makes them feel respected in the marriage. So that all goes along with the emotional need. And usually, so here's an interesting point, and we kind of talked about it a little bit. So a man can have sex with his wife and still feel emotionally rejected by her.
That's true.
Say it again? What'd you say?
So that says staying still, not moving, not interacting.
Yeah, because that's saying to him, now we're just saying, okay, I'm tired, but if you got to release, then go ahead. But to him, it's saying you're rejecting me. instead we reject it. It says, he longs to know that he is pleasing you and that you are sexually interested in him. A reason men are enticed into adultery is the availability of the other woman. Not physically, but because she wants him. So think about that.
Repeat that again.
A reason men are enticed into adultery is the availability of the other woman. And it has nothing, well, I won't say nothing. Sometimes it doesn't have to be with physical attractiveness. So he may not be attracted to her because, not because of beauty, but it's because he's drawn by the desire that she wants him. Because they have to feel wanted. And if we're not making them feel wanted, then again, that opens the door. Okay? Okay, spiritual. So spiritually, the spiritual need is to avoid temptation, kind of going along with the whole, adultery. So we know that men are sexual creatures. So a lot of times if we're punishing them, withholding sex or see, I even have that in my notes. Yes, we should not be punishing our husbands by withholding sex. Because again, that opens the door to the enemy. And by men being sexual creatures, that could be a temptation for them. Not that there's a book that's called His Needs, Her Needs, How to Have an Affair-Proof Marriage by William Harley. And so what he says in the book is that a lot of times people don't choose to have an affair. So then, you don't just wake up one day and say, oh, I'm just going to go have an affair today. But it's because one of the needs, either whether it's the women or the men, a need that they have, and usually one of the stronger ones, is not being met. So that's what I mean. That's what I mean by this. Spiritually, it helps our husbands spiritually when our sexual relationship with them is. Okay. All right. And also, it also helps him not to seek out other ways to be satisfied, like pornography, those types of things. Okay. The relational needs. So there's a principle called correlation does not mean causation. Correlation means that two events tend to collide. For example, for our purposes, sexual and marital satisfaction are correlated. There's a sexual, there's a marital. Our assumption that a good relationship leads to good sex is making the leap from correlation to causation. It's just as possible that great sex causes a satisfying marriage, not the other way around. Okay? So there's a principle called correlation does not mean causation. So correlation is two events that collide. Causation is the cause of something. Sexual and marital satisfaction are correlated. There's a relationship there. Our assumption is that a good relationship is what causes good sex. But it could be that good sex causes a good relationship. Okay? So again, connectedness in this relational need. It is a myth that men are not emotional or relational. That's just not true, because God made us all relational beings. Because if that wasn't the case, God wouldn't have made woman. Why did God? If you think about it, why were we formed? In the beginning, God created man, right? Mm-hmm. He created animals, but what did he say? There was no suitable helper for the man. There was no suitable helper for Adam. And so he formed a woman out of man. So that lets us know that men are relational. they do desire a relationship. It looks different for them than it looks for us, but it's still there. And so again, they need for us to, that connection with us. They need to feel connected. They need the intimacy too. I know intimacy is a big part of sex for women, but intimacy is important for men too. It is important for them too. Not all the time do they just want to jump in. Occasionally, they might like candlelight or some of the other type atmosphere things that we like as well. Okay, anybody have any questions? Okay, so let me wrap it up here. Your husband's sex drive is actually God's gift to you. Has anybody ever thought about it that way? No.
I'm sorry because she's sitting here like, you better start.
And so, kind of what I thought about, I know that the name of the topic that Stephanie gave me was the way you make me feel, and kind of I just felt kind of some way about that. It's like it's a Michael Jackson song, whatever. The way you make me feel. We're as women, because we're so emotional. I guess I kind of was like, well, sometimes he don't make us feel. Right. Sometimes the man doesn't make us feel like, whatever. So, I really done so much. So, I came up with my own kind of, I think on one of the pages I wrote Michael Jackson style with the twisted elbows. And I was like, I want to call it "Give him something he can feel." Y'all remember that song by yes. Give him something he can feel, okay? So his sex drive is God's gift to us. And with that gift, what do you do when somebody gives you a gift? You unwrap it and you enjoy it, right? Wow. Yeah. Don't return it. Don't regift it. No, don't regift it.
What is it? Lifetime? Have y'all seen Lifetime? Where I think it was a movie on there called A Scorned Woman or something. And the husband went out and bought her a gift, and she was like, "This is what this is not what I asked for." She went off, and it was nice. It was very nice. And that lady went all out. Oh my God.
That makes me think about some one's junk can be another's treasure. But leads back to it's a lady out there in the cut looking at your man, and seeing how you're shunning him, and she's ready. She's in the wings ready. Oh wait a minute, she can't have my man. I just thought about that. Revelation came revelation. And that's the thing with me, because honest, whenever we went to the department or wherever you sign that thing to say you're going to be his wife,
Marriage.
The record. I asked the lady, could I keep my receipt? and I meant that thing. I had been by myself for so long, so I move when I want to move.
Right.
And I know a lot of times it's hard for me to, because I feel like why God say he can have all of this? It's about me sometimes too.
Exactly.
But God knows exactly who you need, because my husband, he's a wonderful man. All this stuff right here, and I'm thinking I am having a revelation that I might be selfish.
That's not on the record.
You're not alone. I'm saying in general, wanting, I feel like it's not about about you all the time. I don't have to give this to you if I don't feel like it today, or I don't want to talk today. You know, you don't deserve my words right now. Sometimes that's how I feel. Just being selfish, and it's not about that, I think.
It's not. Go back to the covenant. There's a covenant. God always honors covenant. It's in His Word. He's not separated from His covenant. So that's why I was saying before, any problem that you have, go to God first. You know, ask God for wisdom, ask God for timing, and then go to your husband. Esther is a perfect example of that. So remember in the book of Esther where Mordecai came to her and was like, you know, Haman has plotted to kill the Jews. And then she was like, what you telling me for? And he's saying, you know, you have influence. You're married to the king. Use your influence to save your people. So realize that we have influence over our husband. Now, I don't know about y'all's husband. I can only talk about mine because he's the one I know. But I feel like sometimes my husband don't do stuff unless I do it with him or for him. I'm like,
Well, unless you tell him.
yeah. So I mean, but you know,
his idea.
Don't know right now.
yeah, you might not want to, but just, you know, I've learned I had to rethink things and not do it from a selfish perspective, not do it from my perspective, but from God's perspective. So I realized that's just the influence that God gave me in His life.
Right.
And I just have to, you know, that's my task, that's my responsibility, that's my helper role. So I just got to get over it and just do it. But, oh man, I lost the point I was trying to do.
You said
Oh, Esther, thank you. Keep me on track. So what Esther did was she went to the king, but she asked the lady, the people that she was in covenant relationship, to fast with her and to pray with her and for her so that, you know, she would be successful. Now, she was the man's wife. She could have just came, you know, Kathy talked about timing and things like that. She could have just rolled up to him and say, hey, you know, king, whatever. But she didn't do that. She was strategic because she had sought God's counsel. And she went and, you know, she asked, King, can I come to you? It's been a long time since I read this story, so y'all help me out if I miss anything. But, you know, she pretty much said, can I come to you? But that's a sign of humbleness, you know, because we feel like sometimes as women, as strong black women that we all are, we, you know, we should just be able to roll up and do or say what we want to. But if you really want to talk to your husband about issues, whether it be about whatever in your marriage, you want him to be receptive. So a lot of times we go to them and they're not receptive because of our approach or our posture. You know, we bring in all the whatever. You know, they just got home from work or whatever, and, you know, you just want to talk about something because you want to talk about it now. No, you can't. Not if you want to fight, go ahead, help yourself. But if you don't want to fight, if you do want them to be receptive to what you have to say, then we have to, in wisdom, go at the right time. So, and that's what Esther did. So she pretty much was like, you know, King, can I come to you, whatever. And then when she did go to him, he was receptive, and her people were saved. And then Haman, who was the one that plotted to kill the Jews, was the one that got hanged himself. So it takes us being humble. It takes us not being selfish, but can't have everybody. We both can't be selfish. We're not going to accomplish anything, and we're not going to move forward and have the, you know, happy marriage that we want to have. And I think that's the, I
think selfish is harsh now that I listen to it. Maybe I would have it. It's not
One thing I have done, because I feel you, I am a measure of love. I'm a measure of, I did this much. How much did you do? I'm into, you know, I don't like to be taken advantage of. That's my quirk. Yes. And so I feel you. So what
for that habit of mine, from measuring stuff, and what's he didn't do this, he didn't do that. And he's so awesome. I'm so blessed to have a wonderful husband, but he's got his quirks. One thing I do for me, because I can't control him, I have put, in my girlfriend's ministry, people know this, 1 Corinthians 13:4, love is patient, love is. I wrote it out by hand and stuck it on my refrigerator. I have one in my office, and I used to have one in the back, so I took one out. But it was my reminder, love is patient, love is kind, love is not jealous, it's not boastful or proud, it's not rude, it doesn't demand its own way, it keeps no record of being wrong. I was there, I'm going to hope, I remember. I mean, to the core of me. And all of these things, I just needed the visual reminder. So every time I look at that, Lord, love. I was not patient to I was a stepdaughter to her, I use it because that's what the word requires from God in Christ. So whatever it takes, because when you've been single and then you're merging with this man, you know, you are no longer your own, and yeah, that might be your personality and that was your hiccup, but that can't exist anymore.
You have to evolve into this new role that
it's hard. It's hard.
It's hard. It's hard, but it's doable. It's doable. I can do all things through Christ. And I mean, if you have to say whatever, like you said, whatever scripture helps you. You know, if you just like, I just can't take another. I can, you know, you have to. You have to go with the word have I hidden into my heart that I may not sin against you. You have to remember those words. You know, when you feel like you can't, I can do all things. Whenever you feel like you're not, when you feel like you're not being patient, I mean, God has given us all the tools that we need to be successful in all our areas of life.
I would say the one thing that recently happened with me just within this month that I was taught and never saw was, me and my husband, we were living independent in the same house, like roommates. We weren't a team. So once we had that brought to our lovely attention, now that we do things together. You want to go grocery shopping? Oh, I thought you go. To make me see. Oh, okay. So now I'm seeing in the kitchen more often, and I'm learning, oh, you're right. Because I was being the strong-headed Tamika that's been single, raised my daughter by myself for the last 10 years, don't need nobody, I'm good. To now being married to someone who's lived his life as I'm Pam, do what I want to do, I'm grown. So, you know, we had an agreement, you know, you come in the house, hey, good morning, you go about the business, okay, have a good day at work. And then I'm back me. So it was like we were roommates, and then I had to learn, oh, we're going to do a team, oh, this will be team man. Oh, I thought it was still bull lock. Like, you know, that was who I was, and I had to realize, like real recently, like less than a month. I was a part of a team for the last 2 years as a guy.
In the business of life, we get caught up, and we forget that our spouse, our husband, he has a boss. So seek him. Go to him. A lot of times, I'm guilty of that, because you know, right then and there, I just want to have it myself. I want to handle this. I'm grown, you know.
I have and it's interesting because it took him getting to the world for me to sit down. I have a 3-year-old, well, almost 3, and sometimes I'll be busy. And he said, sit down, Mama, sit down. Sit down, Mama, sit down. And it's a reminder, like, yeah, go sit down. You know, you can't get busy, you know, with stuff and then forget about those who are around you, you know. And then even though, the dishes need to be washed. Yeah, the floor needs to be vacuumed. All that stuff has to be done. But in that moment, like, you know, if he says, sit down, Mama, sit down, I know he wants some attention. You know, and I have to do that with my husband, where when he comes in, I have to sit down and say, hey, how are things going? You all right? Everything good? You know, and then later on, I might be able to get to the vacuum and, you know, all that other kind of stuff. But sometimes you got to sit down.
And the thing about that is, he only needs probably that 1 minute. You know what I mean? So, literally. Because there's 12,000 words. He literally may only need that 1 1 minute just for you to acknowledge him in that moment, and then go on and do what you're doing, or you know. Like I know for me, when I came home, I was always on the phone. Usually I talk to my mom when I'm on the way home. So then I had to start, or somebody, I had to start ending my phone call before I walk in the house. So I'm not walking into the house, you know, giving somebody else attention. Not only for my husband, but for my kids, because they haven't seen me all day. So literally, and when I walk in the house, it's just and you know, and sometimes it's frustrating because I'm like, oh gosh, I just need time to wind down. And the thing is, the 20 minutes I drove home, I should be winding down and getting my mind together and getting myself prepared now to transition from everything else. Now it's time to be mommy and wife. You know, and then that way I could have that downtime. I can release things, do what I need to do to get myself together, and then when I walk in the house, hey everyone. I can be pleasant mommy and pleasant wife instead of, you know.
I just want to add 2 quick things. When you talk about the communication and how she came, I know for many of us, we have jobs and we have bosses, and we don't just burst into their office and tell them how we feel and what we want and how we want to do it. Yet we want to do that with our spouses. You know, so as far as I know for myself personally, I kind of calculate, you know, that strategic planning of how I communicate, because I know how he communicates, and I am a man, hear me roar type of personality. So if I come in out, he hadn't heard a thing. He hadn't heard a thing. But I give that respect to my boss. You know what I'm saying? So if I can get, and we are so quick to give that respect to pastors, to bosses, to parents. But then when it comes to them, they just have to know this is how I am.
And that's wrong. You have to change that.
Yeah, but then if we flip it, don't come to me acting crazy and want me to hear what you're saying.
But you know what? I found, for me, once I changed, he changed. You know, and a lot of times we have to lay pride down, lay being selfish down, and let the change start.
But I think it all begins with treat people how you want to be treated. It starts with you know, if you're out there speaking to me in that tone or like that, don't come to me like that.
But that goes back to just a recent incident that me and my husband had prior to Sunday, and it just, I mean, God is awesome. When I say He will allow you to see yourself, what happened was, me and my husband, we had a time that we was going to go to the movies. Well, I go to school and I go to work. So we really don't have time to spend with each other during the day. Well, one particular time when I got home, instead of me rushing off to school, we actually rode somewhere. So when he got in my car, he was like, Tamika, what's wrong with your car? Because I had stuff everywhere. Well, mind you, and I told him when he got out, I said, okay, I'm going to take my car to get it washed Saturday. Well, instead of him letting me do it, he did it. So it caused him to be late coming back home, and I went off. And I was like, I was going to take my car. I was going to get it wrong. I couldn't get it. We went to the movie. And it took, y'all, he would like, are you serious? and so I kind of like went back in the house, and I got dressed so we could leave. And he's sitting there like, are you serious? So then Sunday, when I went to church, my pastor preached about, you know, saying thank you. And so it dawned on me. I went right back to yesterday, and I was like, oh my God. Like, all I had to say was thank you for taking my, but I took him for granted. The fact, you know what I'm saying? It went off. And so God allowed me to see myself, and not only for that situation, but a lot of situations, I'm always like, why did you do that? I could have did that myself, and then and he just be looking like, because I'm like, well, I wanted to do this. I wanted to do this right now, and you, and I'm like, we were supposed to do what I wanted to do, not what you wanted to go wash my car. I wanted to do this. But it goes back to being selfish, and I'm like, okay, that was my word.
It's not addiction.
It goes back to me taking him for granted. So I'm like her. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I want nobody else to get this man. I'm gonna change.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? I bet they gonna watch their wives' cars.
You okay?
It goes back to the whole thing about, taking him for granted, but the reason why I say God is so awesome because He allowed me to see myself in it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, thank
It could be
you,
this
God.
Saturday, you're doing it again.
So I know we have to wrap up, so I'm going to end with this, and then I have some homework. Yeah. So we.
This is serious.
Latest class.
I mean, what you think?
You said you don't. So just recognize that you have a powerful place in your husband's life that should only belong to you. Okay?
Say it again.
Should you have a powerful place, and it goes back to that influence we talked about really, but you have a powerful place in your husband's life that should only belong to you. So I guess my question is, does it? Does that only belong to you? It should. Focus your energy on reclaiming the influence that is rightfully yours. Okay? Okay. It's our homework, yeah. This is something that I did. I don't remember how it got to me, but I think it was sometime last year. It came like at a perfect time for me. And her name is Sharon James, and it was Valentine's Day, and she had this 14-day romancing your husband challenge. So it sounds like some of you might do. So the idea is, if you did it before, that's okay. You can redo it, do it again. So the thing is, there's over 14 consecutive days, so don't skip a day. There is a challenge for you to do every single day. And at the end of the 14 days, then, it's up to you kind of what happens. But this is I thought that this would be something great again, no matter where you are, good can become better, whatever. So,
The coupon.
I think one of her days you can do a coupon.
Okay.
So, yeah, I stay away from those.
I looked at it. I ain't doing none of it, but I looked at it.
Because I know I got to catch every one of them in here. I stay away from those.
I like couponing.
I'm not bringing Sparky, no, as long as you say they exist. No,
Sure. I wrote in my notes when you had said intimacy. We talking about men need intimacy as well. And I remember years back I heard T.D. Jakes said intimacy is intimacy. And so in that, men have basically intimacy, allowing themselves to be vulnerable. The full acts of being vulnerable, and if they don't feel that trust and they're not willing to be vulnerable, then they'll do the teammate thing, they'll do whatever they have to do to just kind of keep it moving, but they still have to become intimate because they don't feel like they can be vulnerable and just let their guard stay.
I had that talk with my husband recently, and he actually, believe it or not, y'all, he apologized. He apologized to me and my daughter because he said he was blocking himself from his previous marriage or what he went through. And I had to finally let him know, I'm like, I love you because of who you are. Not whatever the hell was wrong with you. You just need to get all this together. And I came back from praise rehearsal. Me and my daughter both got an apology that he had truly been blocking himself so that he would not get hurt. And ever since he did that apology, I got me a new husband.
And again, communication. Find out what the barriers are, what the obstacles are, because it could come from upbringing. Realize we're two different people. A lot of us were raised in two totally separate households, and you're bringing two unlike people together to make one household successful. That takes work. That takes 27 plus years. I'm sure even being married 27 years, there's still new things. You still grow. Yeah. So just